Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another trek through the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We are on Volume 10, Chapter 6. I wanted to get Chapter 6 last week, but unfortunately, just ran a little bit long, but super happy to get into it now. This is finally where this volume starts getting really juicy. And just want to say, called it. I called it. But yes, I am now at I read Chapter 10. So I'm just sprinkling into 11, and it's finally getting really good. And that's really nice because I haven't really been enjoying this volume that much, but it's still good stuff. Like I've said before, it's just a lot of slice of life. It's a lot of just interactions with the characters, which is good. You want to see these characters grow and form bonds. I love the dynamic trio of Zenoba, Cliff, and Rudius for sure, but this is where things start to get like we're expanding the world and the characters into a broader spectrum. So that's what I'm looking for typically with Mushoku Tensei. It's not that I don't like that early stuff, but as per usual, thanks everybody for dropping by for the Mushoku Mondays, all that are in the premiere, in the chat. Hello chat. Good to see you all here. Thanks to everybody for liking the channel. Well, liking the video, but anything on the channel, if you like it, it's great. Thank you so much for your support. All those that subbed, all those that are supporting financially through our tips link, our super thanks, memberships, all that stuff is greatly appreciated. We also have a Patreon if you want to support monthly. All that stuff helps out a lot, keeps the stuff going. I greatly appreciate the support. But with all that said, let's jump into Chapter 6. Let's just kick things off. Let's not even delay. Let's just jump into it. Chapter 6, Hosting the Wedding Reception. Jumping forward to the day of the reception, sadly, Genius and Soldat could not attend. Of course, dudes are busy, especially Soldat. He's always got meetings. Genius as well. That really lets me down. Soldat, really, dude? Best bro just got knocked down a couple pegs. The tier list has brought him down a little bit. Everyone else, though, including Bodigadi and Nanahoshi, accepted. Lenny and Priscilla ended up being the first to arrive. It's customary in our culture for those who tend to arrive early and bring their own kill, nya? That's right, we got here first. A show of loyalty. They brought a giant boar atop a snow sled. According to the tradition, how early one went out to hunt and make a kill and return was all measure of respect to the host. When he inquired what they were planning on doing if they couldn't find something, they actually planned on just buying something from the market if they failed. Sign of loyalty. Apparently, in order to kind of curb the wealth disparity between the guests, they had everyone join in university outfits. This meant that, yes, he had to actually go out and buy Julie one. As Rudius had Priscilla and Linnea warm themselves up in the living area, they discussed Fitz's real identity. That, yes, the one that he's marrying is Sylphie, and that was Fitz. Which is, yes, technically something they disclosed with all the attendants. They figured that it would get out eventually, but they did request everybody to keep it to themselves for now. So, Fitz was a girl after all. I wondered about that. Based on her smell. Yeah. But now it all makes sense, yeah. They groomed each other's tails as they spoke. What makes sense? That you have a preference for flat chests. Even though the stench of arousal is oozing from you, the reason you didn't attack us was because we're not your type, yeah? He really did honestly consider groping them as a retaliation, but he did get it all of his system the night before. Shortly later, Zenoba and Julia arrive, an hour before the party. Pardon, I spied an interesting figurine on the way here, and it distracted me. I would have been in trouble if Julie hadn't been with me. Julie greeted by lifting her skirt slightly. She was so cute. Why not a picture? Why couldn't we have a picture here? Missed opportunity, come on. Master Rudius Greyrat, I am deeply grateful for your invitation. Zenoba, your highness, you have my gratitude for... Oh, master, there's no need to show such courtesy. I know it's just for appearance sake. I'd much rather you be rude to me, like you usually are. So mean. Rudius, stop being rude. Oh, okay, well then go hang out in that room. Haha, very well. Come on, Julie, let's be off. Rudius could hear Linnea and Priscilla boasting about being the first, and Zenoba's frustrated replies. I can just imagine that. Yeah, we got here first, yeah. We're much more loyal to boss. But the figurine was in the way. Julie, tell them. Next up was Ariel and her group, which arrived next, 30 minutes before the party. Ariel asked for forgiveness in her not knowing commoner etiquette, but gave a bow in greeting. Rudius assumed one of her attendants would bow for her, but perhaps he was trying to be polite. But no, Rudius assured her that folks from many races are attending, and that it wouldn't be a concern. Ariel then had her attendants introduce themselves. Two women, Elamoy Bluewolf and Cleone Elron. Rudius wondered with the commonality of colors and animals, he was really wondering if somewhere out there, There was a wide ass. Anyways, they offered 2 gifts to Rudius, then claimed that they would be useful items for nude married couples. One was an aphrodisiac. There goes Luke's supply. That's a really expensive gift. A really, really expensive gift. And yes, the other was a wooden rod. A dildo. Yeah. That's Ariel. I'm sure that as a member of the Grey Rat family, you're perfectly capable of satisfying a woman. But should the need arise, please use these. Sure. Ariel was completely composed saying all this. Rudy has kind of wondered, is this kind of a normal gift for her to give people? I mean, we're talking about the royal court. These people are crazy. And it's kind of one of those things where they keep saying it. Like, Sylphie even keeps saying it recently. Just like, yeah, these people are crazy. Lilia kept saying it. Yeah, these people are crazy. And yes, Luke and the other 2 were unruffled as well. I can just imagine this. Here, Rudius, have a dildo. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me to the party. Have a dildo. Yeah. Like, they're still standing in front of the house. He's just like, oh. Okay. After this, Rudius feared war was going to break out between the Beast Folks and Ariel. Nice to see you, Miss Linnea, Miss Persenna. My apologies for the trouble before. Nice to see you too, Nya. We caused you a lot of trouble, so it's fine. Ariel took a seat, and then Rudius nodded to Zenoba, signaling him to be ready to intervene. But he nodded as if he misinterpreted it. A pleasure to make your acquaintance, Princess Ariel. I am the 3rd Prince of Chiron Kingdom, and beloved pupil of Master Rudius, Grey Rat. Zenoba Chiron. Pleasure to meet you again, Prince Zenoba. I am glad to see your good health. I paid you a visit soon after entering the university. Could you have forgotten? Oh, I apologize for my rudeness. It seems that while I've been blessed with superhuman strength, I'm lacking when it comes to intelligence. Truly, I heard that you had top grades in your earth magic class. That's entirely thanks to Master's teachings. Cliff, Elise, and Nanahoshi arrived next. She was standing outside the gates looking flustered. She's an acquaintance of yours, yes? Yes, of course. This is Miss Silent 7-star. Oh, so you're the one they call Silent, huh? I'm Cliff. I'm sure you've heard of me at least, right? Yes, I have. They say you're amazing, and yes, I'm Silent. She sounded so unnatural, as if she was lying knowing about him. Poor Cliff. She's like, yeah, totally heard of you, genius. Pleased to meet you. I'm Elise Dragonroad. That's an incredible mask. A pleasure. Your hairstyle's amazing, too. You just don't, I think, just text alone, I could know there's like sarcasm in there. She just doesn't care. It's like, oh, that's amazing hair. Honestly, Rudius was surprised that Nanahoshi came. When he invited her, she said, marriage? I guess you really are serious about living here in this world. Later on, he sort of jested at her in a low voice about the fact that she left her room. But he did do something nice to help her relax. He made potato chips, which surprised her. Here's one of those things where when I read through it a second time, which is technically my reread when I do these Mushoku Mondays, something hits me. Something happens later on with Nanahoshi, and I almost wonder if, like, this is one of those triggers. Like, he gives her something that is so, like, her past life that it increases the anxiety that she has to return. He gives her potato chips, and later on she discovers his bathroom, which is Japanese style. And I wonder if these things, like, just compound on her to increase that anxiety that she needs to succeed, and it just makes it blow up even more. Elise then excused them and charged off into the living room, dragging Cliff and Nanahoshi. Despite her being an adventurer of no noble title, ranking just above Julie technically, she didn't seem to care. This is like this is somebody that no matter her status, she can just walk into a room. Granted, status didn't really translate smoothly from one race to another, so what a human would expect to be nobility, whatever, doesn't really necessarily transfer to an elf. Cliff was his usual self, ruining the mood and bragging. And Elise would then smooth things over. And Nanahoshi was generally quiet, although responded when spoken to. Despite her shut-in nature, she didn't have an issue with communicating. Sylphie then arrived to the room and notified everybody that the food was ready. Rudius was worried Badigati would be late, to which Elise confirmed. There's absolutely no way that Badigati will be here soon. Beings who live thousands of years have no concept how time passes for the rest of us. You should probably expect him in a month from now. That was technically the case with him, like, with her first arriving there. It was like one of those aspects of, like, yeah, he'll just be there whenever. It's like she literally had to tell him, get out of that island and come here. As they gathered, Rudius was to give a speech. Despite preparing it, he was nervous. But Sylphie pushed him with a, you can do it. and a toothy grin. My, Rudius's face is bright red, hee hee. Please, be quiet. Ahem. Thank you for making room in your busy schedules to be with us today. Allow me to make my declaration once again. Sylphie and I...
Wahaha! And now I enter with a ba-bang.
Rudius thought his heart was going to punch through his chest. Behind him, he found Bodygotti. He entered with a bang through the back door. Everyone was speechless. Bodygotti, you're late.
It is true, I am late. But in my tribe, when a demon king attends a party, they must wait for the perfect moment to astonish and disrupt the occasion with their entrance. Such is our way.
You're kidding, right?
Not at all, though Kishirika did make up that particular custom on a whim. So, I agree, it's ridiculous. I even went out of my way to enter through the back door. Be grateful. Wahaha.
All right then, thank you.
No need for thanks. Now then, carry on and marry yourselves before me. Few get to marry in the presence of a demon king. I don't provide these kinds of service after all.
Bodygotti then plumped himself on the ground. I'm sorry. When I read this, suddenly Bodygotti became the Kool-Aid man. I just imagine Rudius is like, everybody's gathered, everybody's looking at him. He kind of, I don't know, maybe he steps up onto a little crate or something like that. Thanks everybody for arriving here. Let me declare once again, and then just suddenly, oh yeah, blah, just like just bust through the wall. I literally thought he busted through the wall. That would have been absolutely classic. But no, he went to the kitchen. Which makes me assume that like there's the entranceway in the main area, but then it has like a direct connection to the dining area. But that's great. I love Bodygotti. I will always love Bodygotti. Bodygotti forever. Bodygotti. Rudius then continued his speech. Thank you for making time out of your busy schedules to be with us today. Allow me to make this declaration once again. Sylphie and I are getting married. I realize the two of us are still young and lacking in many aspects, but I hope we will have a fruitful life together. All 12 of you gathered have been especially close to us within these last couple of years. We spent less time with some of you than others, but somehow we were all able to get along, and I consider you friends. Should you ever find yourself in trouble, I hope that I could be there to support you as your friend. Should you ever experience discord amongst yourself, I hope you'll remember us and try to be the bigger person and let things go. Rudius then realized his speech was stiff. Everyone had questionable looks. Bodygotti then gave him a soft pat on the shoulder.
No need for such formalities. You two love each other, and you want everyone to recognize that, yes?
Well, how do I put it? Sylphie and I will be moving forward with our relationship. I hope you'll be there for us when we need you. Thank you, everyone.
Now, a toast for the future of the young couple.
Everyone lifted up a wine cup and cheered. I love this because there's almost an aspect that later on in this speech, it almost as if he kind of shifts to really kind of just being more concerned about the group. It kind of mentioned the fact that he prepared the speech, but I almost wonder if like, yes, he probably kind of memorized most of it, but maybe the later parts almost feels like the anxiety of all these people being in one room kind of overwhelmed him, and he started to kind of criticize the group. Like it says, he kind of realizes it's getting a little stiff. Like, you're talking about you guys fighting. Please don't fight. Remember us. Be the bigger man. Don't fight. And it's like, no, just celebrate. Like, worry about that afterwards. Don't let that ruin your speech. And it's thankful that Bodygotti, being the amazing dude that he is, he's just kind of like,
hey, chill. It's all right, dude. Hey, finger guns. Look at finger guns. Relax, Rudius.
He's amazing. I love every chapter with Bodygotti. Everyone dug into the festivities. Oddly, Nanahoshi was joined by Julie in the corner with the chips. Bodygotti soon joined them. This made Nanahoshi panic and take out one of her rings. No, it's kind of cute because it mentions the fact that technically Julie was like a taste tester for the chips. Like he was trying to figure out how to do it in this world. Because of Nanahoshi's trade routes, he was able to get the oil for it. And so he made them. And again, Julie was the one testing him, so that's why, like, Nanahoshi's over there with the chips, and Julie comes over like, I want them. Hey, give it to me. And of course, Nanahoshi's there going, holy crap, potato chips. They're potato chips, something that I used to eat so much when back my last life. Again, it's still reminding me that what comes up later on, I think this is compounding it. I wish it would actually indicate how big Bodygotti is right now. Because yes, we kind of assume that he's pretty darn big in his original form. But yes, when Rudius like blasted him, he said that he shrunk down to kind of human size, but his head was still like big, and so it was going to take time for him to regenerate. And it hasn't really given us a clear indication of how big he is. There was an image a while back of them all being in the classroom or the cafeteria which is sort of an indication, but I just imagine this big old dude with these arms walking up to Nanahoshi, this little Japanese girl, and she's like, oh crap. And yes, technically Julie there with her too, but Julie's been hanging out with Bodyguardi, so it doesn't matter. They've been drinking together. Okay. I've been waiting so long to start talking about this, but we're getting up to the good part. Soon Ariel approached Sylphie, asking if Rudius and the home was to her liking, but Sylphie said they were everything that she'd hoped for. Ariel then offered her an entire year off, but Sylphie claimed that she'd be saving it for when she had kids. After this, Sylphie moved to the other two attendants of Ariel. They were apparently really close. Blue Wolf had tears in her eyes. Now, this is kind of one of those concerning things. I actually thought about this the other day. It's kind of concerning to me, like, back when Rudius first declared to Ariel that he was going to marry Sylphie, you had this kind of spout between both Sylphie and Luke. And Rudius was kind of a little jealous because they were so comfortable with each other, they were able to kind of spat at each other like that. And it was like, but if you think about it, we never really got that from the Sylphie chapters. We never got that because Luke was always berating her and she never said anything in return. I just chopped it up as the fact that the only reason that she was firing back at Luke here is because she was protecting her boyfriend. Like, she got mad that Luke was saying that stuff against him. But they were obviously in jest. They had that comfort level. This is the same situation. It's kind of sad that we never got to see how she was even at all communicating to these other two attendants. It's like, oh, well, I guess they're close. We never seen it. What we do know, they went through some crazy stuff. I mean, just the travel all the way up here was hell for them. They went through bloody battles together. At this point, Luke walks up to Rudius. Well, I figure you don't like me, but let's try to get along. Obviously, the two of them seem to misunderstand each other. Rudius was really technically okay with them being friends. Sounds good to me, Luke, sir. Take good care of Sylphie. This entire time, he noted that Zenoba was waiting for Ariel. Like, he was kind of heeding social hierarchies. So the moment that Ariel left, Zenoba moved in. He offered his congratulations once again. He then offered his apologies to Sylphie for thinking that he was a man, bowing his head. Sylphie panicked and told him to raise his head. According to Zenoba, being Rudius' wife made him holiness second only to a god. So yes, he was paying massive respects to her. He's like, Master, Miss Master. After Zenoba left, Linnea and Priscilla approached. Is it considered good manners amongst humans to greet each other in the middle of a meal, Nya? It's bad form, but it does make sense for the two of you to get married. It's good when strong people get together, Nya. That's right. Strong children bring tranquility to the tribe. Next, Nanahoshi approached. Her hair was a mess and managed to get away from Bodyguardi. Rudy shot a glance to the corner, noting that Julie was currently riding Bodyguardi's shoulders. I want this picture, Bodyguardi. It's actually happening. We finally get Bodyguardi. I want this picture so bad. Why does all the good parts not have pictures? Congratulations. Thanks. As she started to retreat, Sylphie spoke up. Miss Nanahoshi, can I ask you something? What would that be? You said before that the two of you come from the same place, but what did that mean? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you come from a different world, right? Nanahoshi looked to Rudius, wanting to know how to answer that. But Rudius, honestly, in his own mind, was thinking, I don't really care either way. I'm not looking to hide anything from Sylphie. However, Sylphie might look at him funny if she found out. It would be tricky to explain. I misunderstood, since he spoke the same language as me. Rudius thought, well, that decided that. Apparently we're not going into that. Which, yes, is technically in the same as my mind of like, oh, okay, we're going this route. All right, how are we gonna explain this? Are we doing this here? Are we gonna go to another room? This seems like a big deal. At the same time, I'm really curious as to how Sylphie came to that conclusion. I mean, okay, so let's break this down. Technically, what she's establishing is, why did you say that you both came from the same place? This is a big question mark that she originally had when she was Fitz at the time. So Fitz yelling out, wait, that's not right. You're not from his hometown. We're from the same hometown, but I don't want to say that because I'm Fitz right now. But she's kind of pivoting it a little bit. She's going from, wait, Rudius and me are from the same town, so how is that possible? Because if I'm correct, you're from somewhere else. So, is that right? And Nanahoshi doesn't really confirm it or anything. Nanahoshi's technically not confirming nor denying this. She's not saying you're wrong. She's just saying, oh, no, I was wrong because we speak the same language. Which is probably going to bring up a big question mark for Sylphie. I'm curious as why Sylphie never brought this up at this point. Like, it's been a while since that whole situation happened. I'm curious why Sylphie hasn't said, Rudius, what was that language that you talked to Nanahoshi with? She didn't understand what it was. It was written on paper. Didn't know what it was. They were speaking to each other. didn't know what they were saying. Why hasn't Sylphie asked this? But the bigger question of obviously is, why does Sylphie know she's from another world? What indicated that? What does Sylphie know? And does it have tie-ins with Ariel? Obviously, Ariel looked into Nanahoshi when she got there. I'm really curious at this point, what does Ariel know about Nanahoshi? Because I don't think Sylphie figured out any of that. I mean, she's smart. She's a genius. She's learned things really quickly. But she's not... How do I put this really nicely? Because it's going to make people angry. She's not the best at reading a room. She's not the best at observing things. And she's not the best at coming to her own conclusions sometimes. I'm not getting into all that right now. This is like something that's been building up over time, and we'll get into a little bit here in a minute. I'm not saying Sylphie can't figure this out, again, because she's a genius. These are kind of things that are kind of outside of that realm that doesn't really make too much sense. Everything that makes her incredible to a lot of people is the fact that she learned a lot of things from Rudius. And she learned it quickly because she's a genius. But I haven't really seen too much of what she herself has figured out. It's typically what she's been given that she picks up on really quickly. So again, it makes me really curious, how much does Ariel know? Or maybe what Ariel has dug up has led her to that conclusion. But yeah, this kind of sucks that this is brought up and we're going somewhere else with it, which it might come up later. I'm really curious if in possibly chapter 11, they'll return to this, but I haven't read that chapter yet. If it's not, or if it is, you don't have to say anything, chat. Chat. Last to approach, here it is. This is where things get so good. This is finally the point in this volume where I'm like, yes, here we go. We're digging into stuff now. The last to approach was Cliff and Ellen Elise. Cliff had them line up and cut a cross-like shape through the air with one hand, offering a simple prayer. The two of you aren't followers of Millis, but this is the only blessing I know. Rudius is really happy at the sentiment. He had a god he believed in, of course, Roxy. But he knew that she wouldn't mind if he would accept the blessings of another. Rudius. Here's where it hurts. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna probably get emotional here. Rudius, I'm happy for your recovery. Ellen Elise gave a pouty look. That's right. He hadn't told her. This is what I was mentioning earlier, the idea that Cliff was very adamant about him inviting Ellen Elise. And I really do believe, as I was rereading through that from Mushoku Mondays, that this was a sign earlier that he was talking to Ellen Elise at night, and she's going, I don't know why, but Rudius is avoiding me. He thinks I'm disgusting. And it makes it hurt here in a minute. It makes it so badly hurt here in a minute. She felt like she disgusted him, and he was avoiding her. She didn't know that he was cured, and he was avoiding her for that sake, for his love with Sylphie. You know, you could have told me a little bit sooner. And if I had told you, you would have made a move on me. Let me see for myself if it's true, etc., etc. I told you before, didn't I? I have no intentions of becoming Paul's daughter. But then again, if Cliff wasn't with me, I might have entertained the idea of doing it with you once. I might have felt the same way if I didn't have Sylphie. Well, that's unfortunate, isn't it? Since it wasn't in the cards for us, let's just continue being friends then. Oh my gosh. Ellen Elise then turned to, I'm already getting emotional, damn it. I haven't even started yet, Andrew. Ellen Elise then turned to Sylphie with a gentle expression. Miss Sylphie, congratulations. I pray for your happiness from the bottom of my... Tears started rolling down Ellen Elise's cheeks. Oof. Out of nowhere, this literally wrecked me. I'm like, what is happening? I mean, I was calling it. You guys heard me in the previous Mushoku Mondays. I've been calling this for a while now, that Ellen Elise was going to be related to Sylphie. But right here, right now, it's just... oof, right in the belly. Right in the belly. She continued to look at Sylphie as a sob escaped from her throat. Ellen Elise reached out and touched Sylphie's cheek with a trembling hand. Then her legs started to shake and give out from under her. This is kind of like the Paul situation. There's something very different from a character that seems so positive and so... a character that you don't think you can ever shake. Like, for instance, right now, Bodyguardi. Can anybody right now at this volume, I'm not sure what happens later on, please chat, Bodyguardi right now, if I ever seen a chapter where Bodyguardi starts breaking down, it would hurt so bad. It happened with Paul, and it's happening here. It happened with Lilia. She's probably the easier one to see that, especially with the first season, seeing that she was breaking down for betraying Zenith. But even her, these characters that have these stoic looks, Rajerd, when Rajerd cried, it's a gut punch. But it's not so much the same with Ellen Lise. I don't see... Ellen Lise is a warrior, don't get me wrong. We haven't really seen much of her in battle. We do see the promiscuous, the seductive, the charming style to her, the sexy style to her. Not a relative breaking down at the face of a child. Her face was a complete mess, but she continued to look at Sylphie. I'm sorry. I can't believe I'm doing this. Sylphie looked puzzled. I've been meaning to ask you for a while now, but Miss Ellen Lise, are you perhaps my grandmother? There it is. There it is. Rudius was flabbergasted, but so was Cliff and Ellen Lise. Ellen Lise was flabbergasted at the fact that she knew. And as we find out later on, this is something that terrifies her. Absolutely terrifies her. Father told me that my grandmother was one of Rudius's father's companions. Laws? Dude, what? Rudius was puzzled. Laws said he became friends with Paul guarding the village. Maybe he figured out Paul's connection through their conversations. Rudius felt it was a small world. The pendant being the same as Ellen Lise's sword had. Facial features were similar too. It all started connecting for him. He didn't spend Mushoku Mondays sitting here debating it over and over and over and over again like I do. Miss Ellen Lise, is that really true? You're mistaken. There's no way your grandmother could be a whore like me. Oh, it just starts hurting there. I hate this. Sylphie spoke up. My father told me that it was because of you that he was chased out of the Great Forest, and that people opposed him marrying my mother. What the hell, Sylphie? Oh, I don't like her. Oh, I don't like her. I don't like her. I don't like Sylphie. I will never... I think at this point, it's going to be very difficult for me to ever like Sylphie. What is that? Unless that's bad translation, that is the most... Oh, read the room, Sylphie. This is what I was mentioning earlier. Read the room, Sylphie. This girl is breaking down. And you're literally saying, Father had to leave the Great Forest because of you. And people oppose my mother marrying because of you. What the... There's better ways of saying that. Just say, my father said that you both left the Great Forest together, and there was some issues that came up with him marrying my mother. Simple. Anyways, I'm getting the chat angry. I get the chat angry. Anyways, Ellen Lise was shocked. What? He said that you were devastated by guilt and might not reveal who you really are, even if we ever met. Rudius could honestly see how being Ellen Lise's son might have tarnished Law's reputation. Ellen Lise broke into a sob. She tried to say something, but the words wouldn't form. She was fighting to say something. Sylphie looked flustered, worrying that she said something wrong. You did. You literally rubbed what's been painting her into her face. Oh, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts so bad. And it gets worse. And it gets worse. Rudius then asked Cliff to take Ellen Lise to one of the bedrooms to rest. Then suggests Sylphie continue their conversation when she calmed down. As Cliff pulled Ellen Lise along, she grabbed Rudius' hand, looking terrified. Oof. Rudius, I know I might be a mess, but, Laws was a completely normal boy, and of course, his child, Sylphie, too. So please. Rudius was wondering, did she have no faith in me? He realized that, yes, he had been avoiding her lately, but that was completely a misunderstanding. Rudius then put his mouth to her ear. Please don't worry. I'm not gonna break up with Sylphie because of you. But more importantly, don't you think you should be more concerned about the fact that you are now related to Paul, whom you hate so much? I freaking love Rudius. I freaking love Rudius. This is one of those moments where his cleverness just fixes everything in a situation. Good boy. Good guy, dude. He literally dismantled the tension with a joke that she would personally get, and it would hit her. She smiled weakly. Rudius, you really do say some entertaining things sometimes. You could take your time with small talk with Sylphie, just the two of you, a bit later. Yes, I appreciate you being considerate. Whew. This hurt so bad. And again, it all compounds on itself. Like I said before, rereading through these earlier chapters where you see that Cliff is obviously dropping hints that Elise is hurting. And Rudius is dropping hints that or at least thinking about the fact that he's been avoiding Elise. And so you have this whole build-up. Think of it from Elise's perspective. So again, she's doing this university searching around. She's hanging out with Cliff all the time. They're making love all the time. He's trying to figure out how to cure her curse. At the same time, at some point, Rudius starts avoiding her. And she doesn't know why. Somebody who's been tormented for so long over what she's been dealing with, as we'll get into in this next chapter, she's been dealing with the fact that her whole life with this curse, she's been destroying everything in her wake. And only recently has she been figuring out ways of sort of not leaving destruction behind her. So this is something that weighs on her. This is something that she always thinks about. And now, Rudius is avoiding her. And so her immediate assumption is, oh, he's disgusted by me. This is another casualty of my destruction that I leave behind. And again, she tells that to Cliff probably. And so in Cliff's own mind, he's thinking, yeah, I need to get her invited too. She's obviously wants to see Rudius. She's afraid that he doesn't like her. And then she comes to this reception, and she had full hope that she's gonna walk up there, congratulate, walk away. But then she's seen how happy Sylphie was, and she couldn't help it. And the moment that Sylphie points it out, it's like all of the uncertainty within Elise breaks out. Crap, now Rudius knows that she's connected to me, and now he's gonna think that she's dirty too. She is absolutely terrified that she just ruined her granddaughter's relationship. She's so happy for Sylphie right now, and she feels like she just destroyed it. Now that Rudius knows that we're connected, he's gonna think that Sylphie's filthy, and he's gonna run away from her. And the smile that I'm seeing right now is gonna disappear. Oof. I never thought that I would ever see Elise in such a broken state. And like I mentioned earlier, seeing such a character that just doesn't have that side, that never shows that side, hurts so much. I wanted to talk about this scene so badly last week. It's not even funny. And now I get to finally talk about it. It's such a good scene. My gosh, I freaking love this character so much. I fell in love with her the moment that we found out about the whole curse thing and the thing that she's been sort of suffering with. The whole thing with Cliff. That stuff really changed my perspective on Elise. And this just compounds on it. So much different. And yes, you're now related to Paul. I love that he said that. It's so good. It's like it's an acknowledgement of what we're all acknowledging at that moment, but at the same time, it totally calms the situation. She immediately is like, Rudius. Like, it assures her that he's not going anywhere, but at the same time, throws a little pinch in there. Like, he just pinched her side. Like, yeah, I got you. It's so good. It's such a good scene. It's such a good scene. But yeah, Cliff and Elise retreated upstairs. Time to step up, Cliff. In the end, Bodygotti never came over to congratulate them. He just sat in the corner, bellowing his usual bah. Rudius was grateful of his presence. I think it's one of those things of like, now, yes, he didn't come over and say congratulations, but because he's in the room, it probably helped keep everybody's attention away from what just happened. Such a good chapter. Such a good chapter. Such a good chapter. Chapter 7, End of the Wedding Reception. After a successful reception, everyone started shuffling out. As Nenahoshi was one of the first to leave after Linnea and Priscilla, Luke had been hitting on her. Attempting to hit on topics that would be interesting to her, which Rudius kind of acknowledges is a pretty smooth move. He was talking about clothes and stuff that he assumed that she'd be interested in. But in the end, she rushed off and hid in the bathroom. And then shortly later, she re-emerged, coming up to Rudius and bidding him goodbye. But not before asking if she can use his bathroom one day. She noticed it. She's like, I recognize that. And again, that's that aspect of like, this is just compounding on her. She's getting these niceties of her last life, and it's making her more anxious. As Nenahoshi was leaving, Ariel tried to send one of her guards to escort her because they didn't want her to walk alone, but obviously Nenahoshi refused it. Afterwards, Zanoba, Julie, and Bodygotti departed. It seemed that Ariel, Bodygotti, and Zanoba drank a lot together, but Ariel kept her wits about her, seemingly remaining just sober enough. As Ariel was preparing to depart, Rudius checked in on Cliff and Elise. Currently, Elise was using Cliff's lap as a pillow. Rudius was envious. It's like, I gotta do this later with Sylphie. Then Sylphie came in and requested to talk with Elise, which, yes, Rudius and Cliff left them alone. They returned to the base floor, where Rudius exchanged bows with Ariel and her party. Ariel was shocked that Sylphie had family here. She honestly assumed that she had lost everybody. Yeah, she knew, based on the reports, that she lost her parents, and so she figured that Sylphie had nobody left. Ariel then requested a moment of Rudius' time. He nodded, and they proceeded outside. Lord Rudius, I realize this might be inappropriate for me to ask. Would you agree to duel with Luke? No magic, just sword against sword. Rudius realized this didn't seem like spur of the moment. It seemed like she was planning this. Could you explain the reasoning at least? She just smiled softly. Just for fun. Don't worry, this is something Luke requested. Luke did? I don't mind if you use your full power to beat him senseless. For reference, Luke is an intermediate sword god style and beginner in water god style. This was honestly really surprising to me. I know that earlier when I was talking about Sylphie's chapter and she was talking about how she grabbed Rudius' hand and mentioned the idea that he was wielding a sword more than Luke, that should have been a prime sign for me back then. But yeah, it's surprising that Luke has always been at her side and this is how skilled he is. Like, this really does prove to me Sylphie's all that she's got. Now, we don't really know the full extent of the other two guards. I know that one of them knows healing, obviously, we'll see in a minute, but woof, Ariel's got... She literally made it here by Fitz alone. His sword is a magic item, made to cut through steel shields as easy as butter. His boots are the same as Sylphie's, giving a boost in the wearer's speed. His cloak can block heat. His gloves increase his strength. And beneath his uniform, he's wearing sword-proof clothing. And he also has another aphrodisiac in his back pocket, so don't break that. I wanted to say something else, but it would be too... I would just yaw it out anyways. And also, he's wearing a... Literally, right here, when I read this, I'm like, dude, freaking Luke is just pay to win. He's literally just pay to win. Like, you have the MMO or whatever, where you have, like, the person that's been building a full suit of armor, tier 15 or whatever, from a certain dungeon. He's been crawling it week after week. And then he walks out to meet his friend who just started the game. That dude's got, like, nothing but, like, a bunch of paid armor on that gives him, like, massive boosts. So his stats are still low, but his armor's, like, super good. In other words, I might be the one getting beat senseless. I doubt it. But if you do sense your life is in danger, feel free to use magic. I'll just pray that he doesn't cut me in half before I get a chance. Reese was wondering, like, why are we proposing this in the first place? None of us would benefit from someone dying here. This is really one of those aspects of, like, this different in culture. Reese is like, this is stupid. From Luke's perspective, this is pride. This is all about finding out if this dude can protect Sylphie, my best friend. But in actuality, Rudius could end up killing Luke, which would be devastating to Sylphie. On the opposite end, Luke could end up killing Sylphie's loved one. This is stupid. In Rudius' eyes, he's realizing this is stupid. Why are we doing this? But obviously, from Ariel's perspective, Luke's going to get his butt kicked, which was a massive surprise to me that Luke was this damn weak. Before we begin, I would like for you to tell me what we're doing here. Have I done something to upset you? No, it's just for fun. Of course, you can refuse if you like. Whether I accept or not, this troubles me. Even this stone sword is deadly enough that I could kill someone if I hit them in the wrong place. Luke is prepared for that possibility. Rudius didn't know what this was going to prove. Maybe it was an Asura Kingdom tradition. Rudius, please accept. If you're a man, then you should understand. Rudius is like, that's like saying if I don't accept, I'm not a man. That's a stupid statement. That's an unwinnable statement. Even still, he was going to use his demon eye to make sure no one got killed. Rudius then accepted and told Cliff to be ready to heal if anything goes bad, which Cliff was like, I'm already doing that, dude. At Rudius' call, Luke leapt at him. He was slow, but probably to an average person, he wasn't. Not as quick as Edis, Regierd, or even Orsted. Even still, with magic items, this is all he could muster. Rudius used sword god style initial strike, arm chop, on his arm. It broke it with a single swing. Luke dropping his sword to the ground. Not yet. It's over. Rudius kicked him in the chest, knocking him onto the ground. That's enough, Ariel said. Luke punched the ground with his broken arm, and he grabbed it in pain. Ariel called to Elamoy to heal him. While Cliff was yelling about how amazing the scene was, the match was a joke to Rudius. There was plenty of warriors out there that were more skilled than Rudius. Even without his demon eye, they may have exchanged a few blows. But Luke was just a normal swordsman. Master Luke, are you alright? I'm fine. His superficial smile was nowhere to be seen. He looked serious. Take good care of Sylphie. Of course, it seemed Luke was testing to see if he was strong enough to protect Sylphie. Then get good, Luke. If that's your margin of testing someone is that skill, need to step it up, man. But again, this is that whole perspective of like, it's an aspect that I technically give Luke a lot of respect in this situation. Like I said earlier, Luke, let's go way back before the displacement. You had Ariel, and she was assigned Luke and Derek Redbat. I think Derek. Yeah, Derek. And they were just protecting her in this seemingly safe place. And yes, there's assassins that would sneak in every now and then. They had to protect her. But then the displacement incident happens. Derek Redbat dies. Sylphie comes into play, becomes, Silent Fits. And suddenly, Ariel has a very uniquely skilled protector. And Luke never really amounted to much. But yet, Luke has always still been at Ariel's side. Still protecting her, still fighting off assassins. I'm not saying that Luke did nothing. But he's not to the levels of a lot of characters that we've seen so far. And that's not to say that Luke is terrible. It just says that Rudeus has been running into a lot of really powerful people. And so the assumption is that Luke's going to be really powerful, and he's not. Again, it shows just how much Sylphie is important to Ariel's plans. Because without Sylphie, who would protect Ariel through everything that she's gone through? Ariel herself says it. She would have never made it here if it weren't for Sylphie. She would have died countless times if it weren't for Sylphie. Luke admits he would have died several times if it weren't for Sylphie. But even still, despite the difference in power here, Luke, Sylphie, Rudeus, despite that disparaging difference between the skill level here, he still wants to make sure that Rudeus, he could have came into this fight full well knowing Rudeus is going to beat the fire out of him. But he wants to make sure Rudeus has it. Is it all a lie? Let me make sure. He gets the crap beat out of him. He's frustrated, but at least he was willing to make sure the person that's going to stand by his friend, his beloved friend, is going to be able to protect her. Despite all the rumors, despite Rudeus one-shotting a Demon King, see if it's true, for Sylphie. It would have helped if you'd explained your reasoning. It's not terribly important. Luke just had his own feelings on the matter. Male pride, I suppose. Male pride? What? Is he in love with Sylphie too? Rudeus in his head's thinking, man, I didn't mean to make that sound like I was making fun of him. But Ariel furrowed her brow. We all love Sylphie, but not in a romantic sense of the word. As comrades who've been through life and death situations together. We share a powerful bond. Which, yes, kind of goes into what I was mentioning earlier. They've been through so much together. My apologies, it was rude to ask. As long as you understand, eventually I will return to the Asura Kingdom. There are only two paths from this point. Either I take the throne, or I die. There's a significantly higher possibility that it will be the latter. And the palace will be my grave. Do you have to go back? If I didn't, I'd be betraying the memories of those who died to get me this far. It is my duty to return to Asura. This is one of those kind of compounding issues that Ariel herself faces. Yes, it started with this kind of promiscuous, slacking off, goofing off girl that had no cares for the throne. And then Derek Redbat instilled upon her a desire for her to change things, to reinvigorate this kingdom that has become so lazy while other kingdoms are building up. Derek knew that eventually they would all come and destroy this kingdom. He knew that Ariel had the ability to fix it. And she chose that point, okay, I'll do what you're asking right now at your death. In your final moments, what you're asking, I'll do it. And sadly, what comes from after that is this constant over and over and over again, it gets harder to turn back. Every time she takes a step, a blade comes at her, somebody steps in front of it, they die for her sake. It compounds on it. She's literally standing on the bodies of many, many people who died devoted to her reaching that goal. So it's not as simple as saying, shrug, I'll just live here. Rudeus noted that her face had no doubt or emotion in it. He wasn't one to judge, but that conviction made her a good candidate for the throne. So here's the point in which Rudeus has, I think, officially accepted the idea that this lady needs to rule that kingdom. Even still, acknowledging the fact that he's not the person that should be judging it. Sylphie, however, has no such duty. Which, yes, Rudius kind of acknowledges, yes, she was kind of just tossed in there by the displacement incident. It's not like she's a royal or a noble. Sylphie saved my life. She's been there for me as a friend this whole time, even after she found out that her parents had passed. I've depended on her so much, but enough is enough. It's about time I stopped relying on her and left her to walk my own path. I think that's that aspect of, again, I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for the moment that Ariel would finally show a true sign that she is not manipulating Sylphie right now. She wants Sylphie to go on. She wants to release Sylphie. And this is that moment where she's finally acknowledging, I have to stop relying on her. Like I mentioned earlier, she made it here because of Sylphie. She would have died a long time ago. That's all she had was Fitz. Fitz was all she's ever had. Even when they went to the university, she's been relying on the name of Fitz and how powerful and mysterious Fitz is. She has to break off and create a group. Create an army, create supporters that will surround her and protect her. Not a single person. She's been putting all of the weight of this entire plan on Fitz's shoulders. Now she needs to stop doing that, which I think is a good thing. If she can't break off from relying on Fitz, this is never going to be successful, because what's going to happen when she does, confront the throne, confront whoever, go out into a battlefield, whatever she does to go out and claim the throne, whether it be by a round table or a battlefield, she can't go in there and go, I have Fitz. It's not going to work. She's got to build something, and she's been doing that. But more so what she's saying here is, I will probably die in the palace. Sylphie shouldn't. And I'm happy that it's finally established that my theory over here, this fun theory that I've been keeping just in case, which I never really thought was going to be true, of Ariel always manipulating and never being her friend, kind of washed away. She could have started that way, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's now. Rudius knew that Sylphie had every intention to follow the princess. They've been through a lot together. Rudius felt he could relate. If Rajerd were to suddenly show up and say that he's challenging Laplace, Rudius would probably follow, his legs trembling. While not a good comparison, he admits, it's still the same idea. It's friends fighting alongside each other. Rudius was proud of Sylphie for following Ariel, but would want to stop her if she felt like there was no chance of winning. There's still a sense in there of like, I don't want her to just charge off to death, but I am proud of her. But if she's got hesitations, I want to stop her. And even Ariel admits that she knows Sylphie intends to follow her. But if they have children, she expects Sylphie's resolve will wither on its own accord. Though Rudius wasn't sure about that. He wasn't even sure if he'd be able to stop her. He knows how devoted Sylphie is to, no matter what, follow her. I can even imagine this aspect of Ariel going, all right, we're leaving back to the kingdom. Rudy, take care of Sylphie. Congratulations on your child. You're like 6 months pregnant. Congratulations. I hope you have a great birth. Slaps the horse to go. And then here's Sylphie just starts walking beside the horse with his big old belly out. Like, all right, let's go. We're going to go. Nothing's going to stop her. Having said that, if you mistreat Sylphie, then I will take her back. I'm sure that we can't defeat you by a raw show of power, but there are plenty other methods. So please, don't make me feel like she would be better off coming with us. I'll take those words to heart. Well then, Lord Rudius, please take care of Sylphie. As Ariel parted, Luke gave a look of acknowledgement. Rudius knew that when the day came, no matter what Ariel said, they would be there for her. I think this whole situation it's really just Ariel's words. I think the confidence that she has, the acceptance that she has that she still has to do this, and that there's bodies behind her that she has to honor by moving forward. And the fact that he sees that she's so willing to say, I don't want Sylphie to follow me to a bad fate. I think he's finally acknowledging her as a true leader that should be there. And he's gained a massive amount of respect for her. Or you could say it's just the curse of charm that she has. It's a good scene, though. It's a really, really good scene. Because what I like about this so much, it's at least alleviated a lot of my concerns that I have with Ariel. I still have my issues with Sylphie and not be willing to at least offer Rudius to walk away from the war. But at least from Ariel's perspective, I am 100% concrete in the idea that I have a feeling like Ariel wants the best for Sylphie. Still acknowledging that Sylphie wants to follow her no matter what, but she doesn't want Sylphie involved with this bloody war anymore. Like I said earlier, my concern with Sylphie is that she's still concerned with getting involved with this bloody war and bringing Rudius in. She's allowing Rudius to get involved. Ariel doesn't want Sylphie to get involved anymore because Ariel loves Sylphie. I'm not going to say anything else. Returning to the house, they run into Sylphie, and Cliff decided to mention the fact that they just had this duel and Luke got beat, and he looked so cowering with his broken arm. Where he's like, thanks, Cliff. I was curious how I was going to break the news to Sylphie that I just fought her friend. After he clarified with Sylphie that it was just a duel, Sylphie assumed that Luke wanted to test Rudius' strength and if he could protect both Sylphie and Ariel. This comment makes me wonder if it's more of an aspect of not necessarily Luke wanting to see if Rudius can protect Sylphie, but how true it is that he's more... Ariel said something in fact of it being male pride. Is it Luke being a little bit huffy and puffy over the fact that now a male is stepping into... that's stronger than him is stepping into his zone and protecting all the girls? Like, is he jealous? I wonder. Still, she thanked Rudius for not using his full strength. She admitted that he was weak, and Rudius could have easily killed him. But yeah, this is where we find out pretty much everything that was kind of discussed. That apparently Ellen Elise is Sylphie's grandmother after all. Laz's mother. Having given birth to half-elf children all across the world, trouble followed Ellen Elise. Now, the interesting thing is that her conflict-resolving abilities was something that she only recently mastered. Prior to that, she left storms and scandals in her wake. Some still haunt her. This goes back to, holy crap, was it Volume 8? Or was it Volume 7? It might have been the later part of Volume 7, or it could be Volume 8. At some point, somebody mentioned the idea that Ellen Elise was, like, notorious in, like, the southern central continent. This is that sign of that. This is that damage that she's kind of left. That bad name that she has for herself. Her reputation was really bad amongst the elves, who routinely ostracized her children just for being related to her. This led to many of her children and grandchildren distancing themselves from her, causing her to never reveal her true name to children. She would raise them to adulthood, then cut ties with them, never revealing her true name. She had no plans of revealing anything to Sylphie, knowing that she was probably her grandchild or great-grandchild. But upon seeing how happy Sylphie was, she was overwhelmed by emotion. And again, that's what's made her scared. This is what terrified her. She's like, she's so happy, and she was overcome. But no, I'm gonna ruin it. Oh, it hurts so bad just thinking about it. It's so good. It's so good. And it hurts so bad. Cliff later called Rudius to the side. Yes, Master Cliff? Stop with the master crap. And no more stiff speech. Please, call me Cliff from now on. No, scratch that, please. Just do it. Rudius thinking to himself, no need to be respectful, but he was ordering me around. All right, I'm gonna give him a break this time. I like that. He's pretty much like, stop being formal, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to command you. It's about Lise. Okay. Honestly, she's not the person I thought she was. And Rudius was afraid that he was now off-put by hearing about Ellen Lise's past. And if that's the case, Rudius is going to be extremely disgusted by him. If that happened, Rudius was committed that he was going to bring Ellen Lise into his family, if Sylphie permitted it. And yes, it's for Sylphie's sake. It's not that he's going to bring Ellen Lise into the family for his own sake. She's even more tragic than I thought. I'm going to get rid of her curse, no matter what it takes. Since I'm a genius, I'm sure I'll figure it out eventually. But, just to be certain, would you mind helping me out? Rudius realized at this point that he was the piece of crap. So you don't feel disillusioned after hearing what she said? Disillusioned? Of course not. Why would you even say that? But the woman that you love has slept with a bunch of other people, and not only that she has, like, kids, and she even has grandkids, And what of it? I'm a follower of Millis. No matter what her circumstances are, or how far she is from my picture-perfect ideal, she loves me, and I have a duty to make her happy. Rudius realized that he underestimated him. He should call him Lord Cliff, or maybe just Master like before. With that, Rudius accepted to help him in any way that he could. I love this whole segment because it's like one of those aspects of like, why does this confuse you, Rudius? I mean, yes, technically, Cliff here, I guess the only thing that he's really learning is that she has a bunch of children. She could have told him that. I don't know. I mean, the only thing that I for sure know is that he's aware that she has to sleep around because of this curse. Now, has she ever told him she has children? That's the big question mark. I would assume that she wouldn't tell him because this is something that she's ashamed of. But that would be the only thing that Cliff technically could be learning here. And I don't see that really changing his perspective. He would assume that she's had children, unless he assumes the curse keeps her from having children. So no, I don't really see any of this really affecting that. This dude's devoted to her. And yeah, I can technically see Rudius' perspective. He's going to assume this guy might be a dirtbag and he's going to run away now. But no, Cliff's a good boy. Cliff's a good boy. After everyone left, Rudius and Sylphie snuggled. Stiffing her hair, Sylphie mentioned the possibility of growing it out. She figured it would be best since she'd still be wearing pants in school. Which, yes, made Rudius question, well, why don't you wear one of the girls' school outfits? Apparently, she'd felt like she wouldn't look good in it. So he made it a point that he's going to go out and buy one and have her try it on. But at any rate, he agreed that he would like to see her with long hair. So he's going to have to burn the image into his mind of her with short, even though later she can cut it. With that, they were married. Chapter 8, Life with a House. 2 months had passed and Rudius was now living outside of the dorm with Sylphie. He'd do his daily training as always, trying to practice building battle aura despite failing it. It didn't hurt to practice it. I'm glad that he's sticking with it. I was afraid he'd give up on it. Bodyguarding would sometimes join him and spar. His skill didn't seem to match with the likes of Rajerd and Ghislaine. He even thought that he might be weaker than Edis. But then he realized he wasn't using his full strength. Bodyguard always holds back. Maybe with his immortal body, he felt defense was unnecessary. Still, he offered surprisingly useful advice every so often. Jumping to Cliff, he was deep in his research. He was working on disassembling magic items and working on an original magical instrument. He wasn't sure if he could transfer a curse, but he wanted to make an instrument that could negate curses. Interesting route to take, honestly. His theory was that magical items and curses function the same. A curse placed on an object produced a magical item. Here's where it's all clicking from what Rudius told them. This is so good that it's like this step-by-step thing that this writer has done. Again, way back here, Rudius was talking to Ellen Elise and Cliff, and he casually mentioned the idea that blessed children and cursed children are the same. It's just something placed upon a human being that's magic, and how you can then take that and apply it to a magical item, like absorb it into it, just like how the Superb's spear worked. So it makes sense the next logical conclusion that Cliff would come to is, well, what if magical items are the same? It's a curse placed on an object. And if you think about it, when we're talking about the labyrinths themselves, it was this mana flow that was going through items that would make magical items. So maybe it's the same concept of magic flowing through somebody, disturbs that magic, that mana, and it creates a cursed child. But yeah, his theory was that magical items and curses function much the same. A curse placed on an object produced a magical item, whereas a curse on a person produced a cursed child. If you could do something about the effects of a magic item, then you could do something about the curse. So if I can do something to affect that magical item and remove that magic in it, same thing applies here. Cool theory. Shifting off to Zenoba, he was deep in his research of the doll, often seemingly shooing Rudius away, as if Rudius is going to walk by, glance, and solve the puzzle immediately. Julie was progressing well. According to Sylphie, a child practicing the same school while young would increase their proficiency with it. So he was focusing on her doing earth magic. This was in the hopes that she would be an expert in the school soon. At the cafeteria, Luke and Sylphie would show up regularly. This was to give a public appearance that Ariel and Rudius were friends. When in class, Linnea and Priscilla apparently were very bothered by the fact that Rudius was aroused, but not touching them. It's like this whole aspect of they always like, yeah, it stinks. They always get away from it. And now suddenly when he's not doing it and they know that he's aroused, they're like suddenly, wait, why aren't you touching me? Yes, Priscilla would try to tease him with flirty giggles. And Linnea would flash her pantsu. But he kept himself in check, even though he noted that they were blue. You always gotta note them. Visiting Nanahoshi, she was crabby as ever. Now that Rudius was functioning again, he could appreciate her petite Japanese build. It made her stand out from the typical people that you would see in this world. Just so you know, if you lay a hand on me, I'll go crying to Orsted. Rudius was like, please don't do that. It's so mean that she knows that he's terrified of Orsted and that she would say that. But hey, best way to keep him away. But yes, they burnt through their stock of magical circles over the last 6 months. So it seemed as if she was ready to move on to the next stage. Recently, Sylphie was receiving a day off of rest. This was thanks to Ellen Elise, who volunteered to guard the princess instead, which is really cool. While Rudius never seen Ellen Elise and Ariel talk, apparently they got along really well, which seemed odd to Rudius, as the fact that they seemed like they were oil and water to him. Yes, we know that Ariel is promiscuous. Rudius doesn't know that. Yes, Ellen Elise's promiscuity and Ariel's circumspect nature. But Sylphie cleared that up for him. Let him know that, yes, Ariel's pretty crazy behind the doors. On their nights alone, Sylphie was loving and submissive, offering to do whatever Rudius wanted. But he had to stop treating her like an object. Despite loving sex, he wanted to respect her. But her gaze always made him a stupid, weak man. After all the things that she helped him scratch off his list, he wanted to do something for her. When he asked her, is there something I can do for you? He apparently forgot the thing that she asked a year ago. Yes, teach her disturb magic. In return, she wanted to help him with healing magic as she was advanced tier, and she knew incantationless. With that, they would spend their time after dinner teaching each other magic. I love this. The moment I read this, and I'm surprised that Rudius never mentions it, just like old times. This is like that first moment where something happens and I'm like, aw, it's just like old times. Like, I immediately in my mind flashed the anime adaptation where you've seen like that scene where they're all sitting around the table and they're just, talking about stuff and learning things. And yes, when they're back up on the hill next to the tree, learning magic. Again, what Sylphie said, magic learning used to be fun because she was learning it with Rudius and it was exciting and it wasn't about using it as weapons. Now, granted, yes, she's learning disturb magic and she's probably going to have to use it as a weapon, but it's like old times. Then these are technically support magic. This is stop magic and heal somebody. This is not death, stuff. Unless we find out later that disturb magic does some crazy things to the human body if it's done right. Don't want to know, chat. He almost felt like she was a type that wasn't happy unless they were both providing something to the partner. Or possibly she didn't feel right being the only one receiving something. Sylphie mentioned the fact that she didn't feel that incantationless healing was different than any other. But even still, he couldn't pull it off. Rudy, is it possible that you don't understand what it feels like to be on the receiving end of the spell? Rudius thought that, healing magic entailed touching another body and pouring mana into it, using mana to alter the flow of mana and heal wounds. Rudius wasn't able to conjure the feeling of having someone else's mana interfering with his. Like pressing a right index finger against your left palm, although only the finger felt anything. Offensive magic, on the other hand, was easy as breathing. There was probably many things that he couldn't cast without incantations like support magic. Maybe, like battle auras, it's something that reincarnated people couldn't master. Or he just didn't have the knack for healing magic. Still, it seems Sylphie was relieved that there was still some things that Rudius couldn't do. I think this is touching on that whole subject, the idea of somebody going, oh, so you are normal. Like you're not this all-knowing being. You have flaws, I guess. But no, I don't really know what he's really getting into here. So hopefully this is something that later on we'll dig into it more. But the whole concept of like touching the other hand and not feeling it, getting that aspect of I feel like I know how it works in one direction, but not in the receiving end of it. Like there's a disconnect somewhere in there that's happening. Despite the fact that I can see it being done, it doesn't necessarily click. But he sort of seems like he's just trying to, I guess, shrug it off with the idea of, look, I'm not going to be able to do this for everything. Maybe it's just an aspect of I'm never going to be able to do it. But at least he's still trying. He's still at least trying to understand the concept of it. Because just like Disturb Magic, when he initially didn't seem like he knew if he would be able to pull it off, he wanted to understand how it worked. Especially if he can figure out how to overcome it. On the other hand, Sylphie mastered Disturb Magic in no time. She was really an exceptional student compared to anyone else that he has taught. But this is kind of unfair, isn't it? A magician can't do anything if you do this. That's the point. Sylphie. That's the point. That's the whole point. Well, one of the 7 great powers use a similar technique. Really? So that's what it came from. You're acquainted with one of the 7 great powers then? Sylphie. Sylphie. Infirmary. You were Master Fitz. You listened to Hoshi and him talk about him. Yes, they talked in Japanese later, but in the beginning, before they started talking Japanese, they talked about Orsted, one of the 7 great powers, and how he beat the fire out of Rudius. He's like, no, I'm not. Nanahoshi is. I guess technically, having a fight and being acquainted is 2 different things. Still, this shouldn't be a shock to her. He decided at this point not to mention the fact that one of them nearly killed him, keeping any mention of Orsted to himself. There wasn't any guarantee that he wouldn't come after Rudius for teaching people Disturb Magic. Here's where I'm getting frustrated. Rudius and her seem like they've completely forgotten about that conversation. So this is two-way. This isn't just Sylphie. This is Rudius too. I actually went back and checked. Yes, Fitz was in that room. Nanahoshi said, why are you so shocked? Why do you treat me like this? This is rude. I saved your life last time. Rudius is panicked. And Fitz knows this. I'd never seen Rudius this scared. Where's Orsted? He's a busy man. He's not coming after you anytime soon. Anytime soon? Does that mean he'll get around to killing me eventually? And that's when Fitz speaks up. What's going on here? Explain this to me. And then Nanahoshi admits, one time Rudius was really badly beaten by him. Sylphie, as Fitz said herself, one of the 7 great powers, they acknowledged in that conversation. It doesn't make any sense. Anyways, it was like one of those inconsistency things, but I guess it's an aspect of not really putting all the pieces together or at least not saying that it's as formal as you think it is. With that in mind, he told Sylphie to not share this information with anyone. Same goes for Disturbed Magic. He doesn't want her going around telling everybody she knows how to use this ability, or that he knows one of the 7 great powers, or had a conflict with him, whatever, because if that gets back to Orsted, he might get angry about it. Again, this is kind of the point that I made before with somebody about the idea of Edis going after Orsted. There's no guarantee that Orsted doesn't still want to kill Rudius. He just spared Rudius because Nanahoshi asked him to. But as Nanahoshi said, as long as you don't cause a ruckus in this world, again, shifting the vision that he's seen, he's not going to care. But if he suddenly sees that, wait, why does everybody suddenly know Disturbed Magic? This is not my vision. Who taught you? Oh, Rudius Grey Rat. Gotta kill that sucker. I have to kill that sucker. He's gonna ruin the vision that I see. And it also gets in that aspect of just getting attention too much is gonna cause certain people that want to test their strength to come after you. Got it. It's a secret. We got it again. We got another it's a secret. It's a secret. Anyhow, as Sylphie was working, Rudius tried really hard to keep the house clean, but it was massive, and it was very hard for them to keep up. He really considered about hiring a maid, which reminded him about Lilia. He wondered if Paul and the others reunited with Zenith. It had been 3 years since Annalise and her comrades located Mother. It would take Roxy and Talhan a year or 2 to cut across the Demon Continent and arrive at Milshin. They would then have to depart to Begaret Continent, Labyrinth City of Rapon. That shouldn't be a whole year's journey. He sent his first letter a year and a half ago. If it arrived as planned, he should have a reply soon. But he didn't need to worry. Annalise assured him that there was nothing to worry about. But he felt anxious. Roxy was on the case, and he trusted her, so he had to try to keep calm and wait. Now that he thought about it, with Buena Village gone, Paul and the others would probably have to settle down in Milshin. Or possibly they could travel all the way up there and stay at Rudius's manor. He could say that getting married and buying a house was for the sake of his family. But that was only a convenient excuse. An afterthought. The thought of a former shut-in now possibly taking care of his parents was moving, even if it was difficult to give up his privacy with Sylphie. It's always an eventuality. If you're a good son, daughter, eventually you gotta take care of your parents. Just always remember, if your parents were good parents, they had to wipe your butt all the time. So it's time for you to wipe their butts. Chapter 9. The letter. Oh my gosh, the moment I seen this, I was like, I've been waiting for this. And I'm absolutely dreading this. My heart sunk. I've been waiting for this letter to come, and everything's terrible down here, Brutus. Get down here quick. What are you doing? Having fun up there. It wasn't as big as I thought it would be. But there is one cool thing in it. Life was peaceful lately. Only event to note was that Linnea and Persenna introduced him to a first-year delinquent that had defeated all the other first-year punks. Zenoba had annihilated him, and he became part of Rudius's group for some reason. According to the rumors, the university had a Four Heavens King-like rule, called the Demonic Circle of Six. The Circle answered to Rudius. If someone could beat the Circle of Six, they could challenge Rudius. The Six was Zenoba, Cliff, Linnea, Persenna, Fitz, and Bodigatti. I bet Cliff is going, why me? Cliff is like, why me? Why am I on this? I'm doing my studies for the curse. I don't need to get involved. I think he would protect Rudius if he had to, though. The first challenger fought Zenoba for a while, keeping range with magic, but Zenoba withstood all of his attack, draining his mana. With range not being Zenoba's specialty, Rudius was going to have to teach him something. But that all meant that Rudius had become the boss of the school without his knowing. The good side is that delinquents listened to him. So when he ended up finding a pack of bullies mistreating somebody, all he had to do was intervene and they all turned pale and ran off. As long as he lived, Rudius would make sure that the weak wasn't harassed. He's a good boy. He's protecting the bullied. He's not becoming the bullied. Then one day, it arrived. A letter from Paul. I was so scared of this. And again, it's not as big as I thought it would be, but it's pretty cool. Dear Rudius, I got your letter. So, you're enrolling in the University of Magic. Congratulations. I'm glad you're walking your own path. I'm sure you've heard this from Ellenlise already, but we found Zenith's location. Thanks to Roxy, Talhand, and Ellenlise, and are on the way to retrieve her. Give Ellenlise my regards. Of course, she'll probably just look and discuss if you do. On to the real topic. We're currently in Eastport. We're about to head to the Begaret Continent. I've never been there before, but it's said to be one of the harshest places in the world, after the Demon Continent. I hesitated to bring the children with me. Norn and Aisha are still only 9. That's when the idea came to send the 2 of them to where you are. Of course, it's not as if they can go by themselves. Ginger volunteered to accompany them, but I wasn't sure if that would be enough. Just then, I ran into somebody. I miss him so much. I miss him so much. My assumption, I miss him so much. Someone you know. They offered to take on the task of escorting the children to you. And I agreed. I'm sure you'll be surprised when you see them. They're very reliable. Honestly, it was a painful decision. I kept thinking, what if something horrible happens and I'm not there? Much as I want them with me, I also want them to be safe. You as well. Oh, Paul. He's changed so much. Paul has changed so much. Once they get there, just find them a place to live, no matter how small. And send them to school. I've sent some money with them so they can cover their living and enrollment. It's quite a large sum, so don't go buying women or something. I'm just teasing. Knowing you, you'll do a good job. I'm sure. But yeah, I get this is something that I should be doing myself. Sorry for being a terrible father. Gosh dang. Paul. Paul. You've changed so much, Paul. It's okay. It's okay, Paul. This hurts. After seeing how much Paul's grown and all this section with Paul, I really do hurt for him now because he's so self-deprecating. He's a guy trying to get his family back, and he's gone in such a dark place. And because of all that, I've kind of gained a lot of respect for him, but still, he's so self-deprecating. Kind of like Rudius in a sense. I feel bad for asking this of you, but please do me this favor. Come to think of it, you're already 15. Though I guess you may be 16 or 17 by the time this letter gets to you. Either way, you're an adult. I feel bad that we couldn't celebrate your birthday together. I won't be able to celebrate Norn and Aisha's 10th birthday either. Ah well. We can have one huge party when we're all back together, as a family. Leave finding your mother to me. The Fatoa Search and Rescue Corps is pretty much disbanded, but I have plenty of firepower at my side. Between Lilia, Talhan, Roxy, Vieira, Shara. Who's Shara? Hey, 7Cs. Who's Shara? I got so mad when I read this. Who's Shara? Shira? Maybe? I don't think he nicknamed Shara. He's always said Shara. Come on, 7Cs. There's actually two typos in these like 2 chapters, and it's like, who's doing this editing anymore? But anyways, yeah, Shira and myself. We can make it to the Begaric continent and back. If things go smoothly, we should be able to join you in Renoa in a year or 2. I did consider sending Lilia along with the children, but apparently she was more worried about me than she is about them. What a mess. I feel pathetic. She wants to serve you. She wants to help Zenith. That's her concern. She knows Aisha's smart. And he kind of knows it too. She's a genius. She can handle herself. Aisha is gonna be fine. And she knows Aisha wants to be with Rudius. So she's basically sending Aisha to go to Rudius to serve him, and she's remaining to serve at her husband's side and wants to save, let's be honest, her wife. Anyhow, Lilia trusts Aisha. She's basically taught the girl all she could. Aisha is a genius. I'm a bit scared of the power of my genes with how you and Aisha turned out. Norn, though, she's a normal kid. She's not like you and Aisha. You might get frustrated with her, but try to be patient. I'm afraid I spoiled her, and it's made her a bit selfish. She hates you, and she doesn't get along with Aisha. Oof, that's bad to her. I kind of assumed that. I kind of seen that coming, and that bothers me. Hold on. I can get it now. I don't think I ever thought about that. I was very curious of how Aisha and Norn would actually get along, because I think the last time they were together, they were way young. And then the displacement incident happened, some time progressed, and they got older and much more mature in their minds. And yeah, I kind of wondered what happened when the two of them finally reunited. And I think the thing that happened, Aisha loved Rudius, and Norn hated Rudius. So Norn, seeing that Aisha likes Rudius, the thing that she hates, compounds it. And that's that sad thing, because Rudius was really expecting, okay, I'll just wait until later, and we'll clear things up with Norn. Once she's grown up and she's able to really kind of figure it out. Right now, she's a stubborn little kid. She's never going to accept Rudius. So maybe when she gets older and she understands things better, then we can work things out. But no, they've been compounding it. I think Aisha has been compounding that into her head because she likes him and Norn can't stand him, and she's always going to be opposites. That's why I think they don't click. So I'm really curious to see if and when that reuniting happens, how that's going to play out. I hope Norn is not as snotty as I think she's going to be. We'll see. This writer never lets me down. There's going to be some great moment between the two of them, just like with Aisha. But because of this, because she doesn't get along with Aisha and she doesn't get along with you, she's going to feel isolated. As her older brother, please be kind to her. I also gave them a copy of this letter just in case. I'm sure they'll be fine, considering who's looking after them. So if they don't show up within 6 months of this letter arriving, I'd like you to go look for them. So, that's the gist of it. I feel bad for leaving everything upon you, but thank you. Paul Grey Rat. Ugh. Rudius realized that this letter was full of guilt. Again, it's like, after everything you guys went through, and that coming together that they had, Paul still is beating on himself. He's constantly beating himself up. It's like, oh, it hurts so bad because Paul has grown so much. That whole section where they came together in Milshin was so heart-wrenching and so heartwarming. But yet still, Paul beats himself up constantly. And it hurts to see. But yeah, that was something that I didn't really kind of click with me as I was reading this whole section. Is like, wow, I didn't really think about that. How is that meeting going to be? How is that chemistry going to set out? And is Rudius going to be in the area to really see them? But yes, I am 99% sure it's reserved. I couldn't even think of anybody else it could possibly be. Somebody Rudius knows that's extremely reliable. That Ginger being there, she doesn't even need to be that. Like Rudius says that. Rudius, I'm happy that it clicks for Rudius so quickly because I'm like, please don't be oblivious about this, Rudius. We know who this is going to be. Because let me think of people that are down there that would know Rudius, that Rudius would know. Gaius? No, why would he leave the Great Forest? Geese? No, he's in Begarit. Roxy? No, she's going with Paul. That could be, I mean, yeah, big shock if she just breaks off from Paul randomly. And no, she chose that she was going to go to Begarit too. Hishirika? No, she's stuck on Demon Continent. Therese? No, she's not she's not that reliable. I'm sorry, I love Therese. She's super cute. But she got outclassed by Edis when she was much younger. And plus, she's not going to leave her post. She is a guard. She's working for Milshin. So yeah, Reserve's the only option, really. Which is super freaking good. Oh, I miss Reserve so freaking much. I'm super excited. I'm so freaking excited. Papa Reserve is now taking care of Aisha and Norn. He just can't turn down kids. I can't wait to hopefully they have that whole story. But now, moving on. Rudius was really nervous about Norn and Aisha coming there. But yes, he realized that it was better than them going to Begarit. And it seemed leaving them with Zenith's family was problematic. He pondered about who Paul mentioned that was a reliable person. Yes, at first he thought it might be Geese, which I immediately said no, he went off to Begarit. But then he realized who it was. He was shocked. That person did mention that they were searching the central continent. Good fortune allowed them to cross paths with Paul. With that in mind, they wouldn't even need Ginger. Yes, he doesn't even say it. Like, he doesn't even say Reserve's name right here. He's just saying they, them, like Paul did. But it's like, come on, just say you know who it is. That aside, Rudius realized just by reading the letter that Paul trusted him. He would have to live up to those expectations as the eldest son. With open rooms available, they had places for them to stay. He'd just have to give them rooms furthest from him so that they didn't end up teaching them about certain adult things that he's going to be doing with Sylphie a lot. In the end, he was actually looking forward to their arrival. 2 months, perhaps. He's actually excited to see his little sisters. It's so good. After this, Rudius presented a letter to Sylphie, who was actually interested in knowing what Paul's response was to their declaration of marriage. But apparently, this letter was made before the letter about their marriage arrived. So she was a little disappointed, but that's fine. Anyhow, she was happy that everybody was safe. But Rudius really realized this was tactless because, yes, she lost her parents, and now he's kind of celebrating that he's got his. But no, she didn't mind. Even without her mother and father, she had a family now. She had Ellen Elise, and she had Rudius. So sweet. She wasn't lonely anymore. I think she's fine just having Rudius. But I think there is an aspect of having somebody at least in your family. And so having Ellen Elise there as well probably is really good for her. As she said this, she reassured him with a giggle, holding his hands. He wondered if they were ready to raise a kid. It was fine though. Every other living thing managed. Even if he couldn't manage, Sylphie was with him. Also, Paul would show up in about 2 years. With him, Lilia was experienced in rearing children. And Zenith and Sylphie got along well. Paul would also probably be excited to see his grandchildren. Rudius then kind of pointed out, oh, by the way, what about the whole sisters things? Are you cool with this? Sylphie was perfectly fine with it. Yeah, like for sure, Sylphie's gonna be like, yeah, I read that part, but I was kind of hoping that I didn't read that. Rudius, no, I don't want your bratty sisters with us. Anybody but your bratty little sisters. After dinner, Rudius and Sylphie study magic together. He still couldn't cast healing without incantations, but he made do by memorizing the words and studying the theory. Again, this is Rudius. Even with like the disturbed magic, everything he sort of tries to figure it out, everything else about it, even if he can't do this one thing. Always because there might be something about it that would be beneficial later. Voices casting wasn't the only technique out there. He was talented, but far from the most talented in the world. He wanted to keep his foundation solid and maintain his level of ability. He didn't mention Sylphie's current standings, fire magic, intermediate, which again, we kind of mentioned before, because she burnt herself, learning fire magic was going to be much more difficult for her. She was advanced in water magic, earth, wind, healing magic, and detoxification. He also recently learned that these 6 types of magic were known as the Foundational 6. Again, 7 C's. It's not the Foundation 6, it's the Foundational 6. Which again is another one that I looked at my book and they actually printed that. 2 thes. So look at that. The Foundational 6. It's called the Foundational. I'm going to point out every time now. These are the 6 most frequently used types. The university sought to have children achieve beginner in all 6 during their 2nd and 3rd years. Then move on to pick a major and spend the remaining years elevating their mastery to advance. There was almost no students that would reach advanced in multiple fields, let alone saint level. Exceptional students like Sylphie and Cliff arrived maybe once every 10 years or so. However, in recent years, that all changed when Rudius arrived, the main character arrived, suddenly everybody's great. In recent years, there had been one such exceptional student every single year. They seemed like geniuses. But Rudius felt them ordinary compared to monsters referred by people as gods. Rudius never has a problem with putting people on pedestal because he's got the highest already. He's met the pedestal person. Arsted's here, everybody else is never going to be pedestaled. He does it still, technically. At this point, Rudius went over his stats, noting the fact that yes, according to Barigati and Kishirika, his mana pool was god level. But he never got the feeling that he would ever be god leveled himself. He was your average car with a fuel tank of a passenger plane. Run forever, but never fast. Adding a jet engine to it would just make the car fall apart. In a design concept, Rudius was junk. But it was nice that he never ran out of fuel. He downs himself so much, he's not that bad. I think he just really is his worst critic. At this point, he asked Sylphie if their children would probably be good in magic too. Asking this question, as she was trying to use disturb magic on his ball of water, she lost concentration. But no, she said that they would never know until the children were born. But again, lamenting that it may take time for her to become pregnant. Rudius was obviously trying hard, shouting phrases like in his eroges like, "Get pregnant!" Oh my gosh. Yeah, I could see him saying that. There wasn't any meaning in those phrases, but other than that, he wanted to try saying them in real life instead of in a video game. Still, jokes aside, Sylphie offered to take on a mistress if he wanted to, but he had no plans of that right now. Right now. He said right now. He said right now. Bad Rudius. Bad. But no, he's good here. He says, thinking from Sylphie's perspective, the thought of him being the infertile one, and then Sylphie having to go get knocked up by somebody else, the thought of it, he would probably want to end his own life. He couldn't put Sylphie through that. But Rudius, you want children, don't you? Don't be silly. It's not that I want children. I just want a physical representation of our love for each other. That's not a good reason to have a child, Rudius. This whole time, I thought Rudius just really wanted to have a child. Like, he just assumed, okay, that's what I do. I have to have a child, and I kind of want to have a child. I want to do this thing. You don't have a child because you want a physical representation of your love. That's not why you have a child. You have a child to have a legacy. You have a child because you want to rear a child in the world. The massive responsibilities there. You don't do it because you just I want a trophy. I want a trophy that says I was with Sylphie. I hope that changes. It's gonna change. I'm sure it will. Rudy! I love you, Sylphie, my princess. No, Sylphie should have spoke up the moment he said that and said, that's not why you should have a child, Rudy. Oh gosh, am I gonna make it? I don't know if I can. We'll try. Chapter 10, breakdown. The incident happened. A month after Paul's letter arrived, he was assisting Nanahoshi with an experiment, but the parameters were different than usual. If this one works properly, I can move on to the next step. The magic circle was significantly larger than the previous ones. It was written on a large, rare piece of parchment. Just to be sure, may I ask what the circle is supposed to do? It's going to summon a foreign object from another world. We're doing it. We're doing it. And there's no way that it'll cause another teleportation calamity, right? It's safe. Theoretically, at least. Just in case, can I ask what that theory is? Based on our previous experiments, I've confirmed that the bigger and more complex the object that you try to summon, the more mana is required. In other words, magic in this world obeys the laws of conservation of energy. We'll be summoning something simple and small this time. If we assume the energy from summoning was what wiped out that region, then theoretically this circle will, at most, only teleport people within a meter of this range. I honestly don't think it's possible, but just in case, I've written a safety measure into the circle itself. So, I can control how much mana is used. Conservation of energy, what is that again? I'm not well enough to explain it to the uninitiated, but it basically means mana is responsible for most of the odd things that happen in this world. That spell you use all the time, Stone Cannon was it? It appears as if you suddenly conjure a rock in midair, but you actually just transformed your mana into a rock. Which that throws out my theory of the idea of all magic is summoning in some way. Like if you use Stone Cannon, it's pulling earth from somewhere else and shooting it. Or if you use a water ball or something like that, you're summoning ocean waters over to you. And so if you like create a big massive tidal wave magic, it like depletes the ocean or something. Yeah, it's just transferring mana, which makes sense to the idea of the healing and stuff like that. You're flowing mana into somebody. But yes, Rudius realized this means that basically more mana meant that the flame was hotter and the earth magic had more mass. So it made sense. And then Hoshi went on to explain the principle behind her magic. It was Greek at this point. Applying a law such and such, size, circle, this and that, then apply the law of whatever she called it, then blah, blah, blah. If she had a flaw, he wasn't going to catch it. I like this section. I was like, I want to know what she says. Like, they quote everything else, but here he doesn't quote it. Like, I know I want to know this stuff. Why won't you tell me what this stuff is? It kind of makes it more, like, first person in the idea that even though everybody says things and he doesn't understand it, but he still writes it. Here, he just doesn't want to bother writing it because again, it was all in Greek. But he noted that she seemed confident. Even if he got teleported away, he'd find his way back. He has no confidence whatsoever. If this fails and I get teleported, please contact my family. I'm telling you, there's no possibility of that happening. Well then, let's begin. Please. He heard her say please, but he didn't think it was directed at him. It was almost as if she was pleading to a god. She wanted this to happen. She wanted this to work. He poured his mana into it. After some time, something didn't feel right. The path was obstructed. Only part of the circle itself was lighting up. Then there was a soft zap. The mana stopped flowing from him. It looked like there was a tear in the paper itself. Like maybe it short-circuited or maybe the safety that she made in it kicked in. Well, it failed. She sighed and stared at the paper. She didn't move a muscle. She looked absent-mindedly. After some time, thank you for your assistance. You can go home now. She didn't even look at him. 2 years of effort came to nothing in mere seconds. He honestly tried to comfort her by saying that things like this happen, but she didn't reply. Before he left, he turned back and looked. She was in the same spot, immobile. After leaving to the hall, he realized that Hoshi had been incredibly tense lately. Judging by her reaction, she was pretty rattled. Perhaps she was thinking of giving up. But no, she was tough. She had the capacity to take failure. Suddenly, he heard screams from the research room. Things breaking, shattering. He rushed in to see Nanahoshi banging her head up and down in a frenzy, destroying her notes, shelves, jars. She threw her mask to the ground and started tearing at her face as she rammed into the wall. As she started tearing at her hair, Rudius ran up to stop her. He pinned her arms behind her back. Hold on, calm down. I can't go home. I can't go home. I can't go home. Her eyes were vacant as she mumbled those words. She tried to pull away, but she was weak. She was a high school girl, a shut-in. Finally, after a while, she slumped to the ground. She was white as a sheet, vacant eyes with dark circles. Her lips had lost all color. They were dry and cracked. It was a face of someone in a very bad mental state. He knew at this point that she might hurt herself. She already has, technically, but yes, we're talking about much further. He didn't know what to do. There was somebody out there that could help in a situation like this. Sylphie. I almost don't want to do the joke. I almost don't know what to do. I'm really fighting not to do the joke. What does Vesper's think? He'd take her back to his place. As he dragged her out of the research room, he wondered if he should lock it up. But he figured it'd be fine for now, right? Probably. It's not gonna be. You noted it too much, Refugin. I know something bad's gonna happen when you left that door open. People watched as he dragged her through the hallways. Zenobia then called out to Rudius. He lifted her up princess style, and they headed to the medical facility. In the medical office, Nanahoshi lay with a look of the shadow of death upon her. As Rudius gazed down at her, Julie pulled the hem of his shirt. Grandmaster, your face. It looks awful. Rudius touched his face wondering what kind of face he had on. He had to calm down. He couldn't have a young girl worrying about him. Zenoba asked him to explain what happened, which he did.
So, she's not conducting this research because she wants to.
Nope. It wasn't if she was doing it begrudgingly, but she wasn't exactly passionate about it either. She had to do it to go home. It had been 6 years, and her step towards it had failed. 6 years, in her eyes, of no progress. Oof. No progress. All of this was for nothing. And again, I almost wonder if there's a compounding aspect to it in the idea that Rudius kind of gave her a taste of her old life again. And then she's excited. We went through all these months. We burned through all of these theories. We now put it together. It's all led to this. It's time. We're going to summon this. I just want one little object. Summon me one small. Summon a mouse. Just a computer mouse. Just give me this. That's all I need. Nothing. She even prepared expensive parchment. This big, massive, rare, expensive parchment. We have to make sure nothing fails. I have the perfect mana supply. I got it. Everything's planned. Nothing. A fizzle. A fizzle noise. That was all of this time for that. Rias slumped in his chair and stared at the ceiling along with Nanahoshi. After Nanahoshi finally fell asleep, Sylphie arrived, hearing word about them bringing someone here. After explaining the situation, Rias asked if she could stay with them. He felt it would be best that when Nanahoshi finally woke up, that Rias was there, because he would be somebody that she knew. This whole plan was to isolate her until she calmed down. It might be good for her to kind of escape from reality for a bit. And yes, he assured Sylphie that he wasn't planning on doing anything to Nanahoshi. He wasn't going to cheat on Sylphie. Which, yes, she didn't distrust him. He realized this is what it must feel like to have real trust. At this point, Zenoba offered to transport Nanahoshi over to his manor. Along the way, Rudius decided to lift up Julie into his arms. Grandmaster, what are you doing? Nothing. Her body was surprisingly plump. Just years ago, she was skin and bones. She was eating properly now. Her muscles were lacking, but she didn't need to be a beefcake at the age of 7. Is Zenoba treating you well, Julie? Yes, Master feeds to me lots of food. Good to hear. The correct way to say is yes, Master feeds me lots of food. Master feeds me lots of food. Yes, that's it. She's so cute. She's so cute. But yes, in this exchange, he's wondering, is Nanahoshi eating properly? She was light when Rudius carried her. Food can lift your spirits in a rough time. Eating foods and sharing a meal with people brings you joy. He doubted she did much of any of that. I mean, yes, it makes sense, the idea that he really never sees her because she always has that mask on. And the moment she took it off and she threw it to the ground, he finally seen her. Over the last few months, she was probably never eating. She was pale in the face. Her lips were chapping. She wasn't eating right. She's a nervous wreck. She's full of anxiety and she wants to get out of there. It might be the fact that she's built up to this final theory. Like, this was everything that she built and masked. And so this is the logical conclusion for her. And so that's what kind of gave her anxiety and stress. But it also could be that Rudius kind of gave her a taste of her past life. Him showing up and being a reincarnate like her gave her that sense of, that's right, it's not a figment of my imagination. That's right, somebody else is talking to me and talking about the past world. Every time he went to talk to her and he's talking about, do you know Dragon Ball Z? And she's like, oh yeah, I remember Dragon Ball Z. And they're talking about light novels and stuff. And then he gives her potato chips. And then he gives her, like, he's literally giving her a taste of her past life. For the previous years before she met Rudius, she was just traveling in this world alone. Yes, having him there gave her a sense of camaraderie and nostalgia and feeling like somebody she can finally talk to. But in also another sense, it's also reminding her of everything she left behind. He wondered what kind of life she was living. Locking herself up by herself, hardly eating, scarcely talking to anyone, just continuously drawing those magic circles. She wondered what kind of life he was living, locking himself up by himself, hardly eating, scarcely talking to anybody, just continuously looking at that computer. I love the contrast. I love the parallels. I will always love the parallels. I'm sorry, I'm a fan of parallels. I love the hypocrisy in parallels. It's so great. I always love it. I think the face that he was giving, I skipped it earlier, but I think the face that he was giving, that Julie pointed out, I think it was him seeing himself once again. Seeing somebody destroyed and giving up on life. He's seen himself in Nanahoshi, and I think it terrified him. I think it gave him too much. Yeah, technically later on he does sort of mention it to Zenoba, that he's sort of seen himself in that same situation. So I think that's what the face he had, is seeing his own death.
It's not your fault, Master. Try not to let it affect you so deeply.
Yeah, I know. Zenoba seemed to be taking Rudius' sigh as meaning something else. Zenoba had a serious look on his face. He was more worried about Rudius than Nanahoshi. As they walked, Rudius could hear Julie's heartbeat. It was surprisingly soothing. He really needed to buy something for her next time he went out. After Zenoba dropped off Nanahoshi, her face was empty. Rudius was honestly unsure if she was going to come back from this. Though based on his own experience, he figured it could pass in time, eventually. I think that's the hard thing because everybody deals with things like this differently. That moment where you feel like everything is wasted. Say a job you had for so many years, you've been developing and building into, and suddenly you get fired one day. That feeling like you've had this relationship with somebody for 20 years and suddenly they pass away. That feeling that everything was for this and it's gone is something that everybody deals with differently. And I don't think he believes that that's true. I don't believe that Rudius would feel like he knows exactly how she's gonna bounce back in about 24 hours, bam, she'll be fine. I did the same thing. But still, there is a sense of like, it could pass eventually. After patting her down and removing a small Swiss Army style knife, he secured the entire room of anything that she could possibly use to harm herself. He was honestly believing that she could possibly want to end her own life. Back down on the first floor, Zenoba looked worried and asked if she'd be okay. Honestly, Zenoba didn't seem to be the type that experienced depression, and generally, he was an optimist, but he had his moments of weakness. Who can say? At any rate, you are big help, Zenoba.
No, you're the one always taking care of me after all. This was the least I could do.
Rudius could always count on Zenoba. He's a good bro. He's a good bro.
What about you, Master? Are you going to be all right?
Me? Why?
It looks like Master's silence breakdown had a severe impact on you.
He was probably right. Seeing her in that state reminded him of his past. Though the triggers were different, they both had been through similar mental agonies. He felt her pain as if it were his own. That's why he had the face. If Rudius' circumstances were different, he may have been the one lying vacantly on that floor in her place. I wonder, there's a couple possibilities what he's stating here, but there's a side of me that almost wonders if it's an aspect of him acknowledging that, what if he transported this world with his body with no mana at the age he was? He'd immediately give up. I don't think he'd even want to go back. I think he would just crawl on a ball and die. It's really interesting to think of this, the what if, and the idea of him being transported in his old self and having nothing and just dying. But I think it also is the idea of what if he had something in his previous life, was transported to this world, and wanted to go back and failed. He'd probably be crushed. Just a bit. Reminds me of the pain from my past.
Would you mind sharing more?
When I was little, I was also in a similar experience. I became apathetic and shut myself off. I can understand that feeling.
I can't understand that feeling.
Although Rudius realized that sounded distancing, he didn't want Zenoba to flippantly claim to understand either. I really love this because honestly, I do the same thing. I've had several times where somebody comes to me and they say, "Hey man, I watched your video. I listened to your podcast. It's got me through this thing. Like, I had this difficult time and you helped me get through it." And I love to hear that stuff. Whenever people say that kind of stuff, it means so much to me to know that what I create, I've said this countless times, what I create brings somebody happiness. Even more so that the content I create gets them through a hard time. It means a lot. And I hope to never disappoint people in that regard. But there is a side of me that when somebody comes to me and they say that, I obviously want to lend them an ear. I tell everybody, I can't say that I can solve your problems, but I'm always willing to lend an ear. I've always wanted to lend people at least an ear. Because sometimes that's all people need is an ear. Somebody to listen to them vent. Get it out. Let somebody know that they're hurting. That's a very important thing, to at least acknowledge hurt. But at the same time, I'm always fearful that even if something sounds like something I've gone through, even if somebody says, look, I just lost a dog, it's hard for me to even in that situation to say, oh, I feel you because I just lost my dog. Because it's never the same. I'm always afraid that somebody's going to turn around and say, oh, but are you experiencing this? How do you get over this? And I won't have the words to give them, despite telling them that I know what they're going through. Because in all honesty, even if you've been into a similar situation, like I mentioned earlier, nobody ever handles the situation the same. Nobody deals with the situation the same. Nobody has the same depression. Nobody has the same shut-in. Nobody has the same insecurities. Nobody has the same anxieties. And thus, it's hard to really truly say, you understand. Because even, like, say, I lost my father. And somebody else says, I just lost my father. I can't say, I understand how you feel. Because my relationship with my father is different than what your relationship with your father is. And I can't say that I can relate to you because you might have just recently lost your mother. I at least have my mother. There's that struggle with saying you truly do understand somebody. And it's okay to say you don't understand. It's okay that you can't relate to somebody's feelings. I think in some situations, somebody can find comfort in being with other people who are in the same situation, but it's hard to ever say you understand. Because it almost, for me personally, it's a fear for myself that saying that it's a lie. Because I really, truly don't understand what they're going through. But even if I can't understand, I'm still willing to help. I'm still willing to give an ear. I'm still willing to do whatever I can to help. Even if it's not much. Even again, if it's just to lend an ear. And I can't... We always kind of discount Zenoba. I have a goofy voice for Zenoba. We had a discussion about this a couple weeks ago. I have a goofy voice for Zenoba. I started out with my initial voice for Zenoba was, Elder Brother. That was a very refined voice. And I kind of slowly went to goofy route. Master. It's just fun. Zenoba is single-minded, but we've learned over these last few chapters that he does have passion for things, and he does think about things. He does have insecurities. He does feel he's not doing enough for Rudius, and he wants to focus on things. And he's willing to say, I don't understand. But he was extremely reliable. He was here. He helped Rudius any way that he possibly could. He's never said no to Rudius. He's always willing to help. He's always willing to take a stab to the chest in place of Rudius. It's a dude with heart, despite the fact that he can't understand. But yes, Rudius says, I'm sure you can't. Regardless, if there's anything else that could use my strength, please let me know. Strength is the only thing I have in abundance. Again, all it takes is what you can do. It's not always the fix, but at least you can say, what I can provide, what I'm able to provide, you have it. It's here. Again, if I'm on a chat and I can't be in another state where somebody's having problems, I have an ear. I at least have that. What I have abundance of. Please have it. I love it. Always the simple, you're there. Yeah, I'll be sure to do that. Rudius really did appreciate Zenoba's kindness. After Zenoba left, Rudius read in the room Nanahoshi slept in. If he was in her position, he'd want to be alone. But she had been alone up until this point. Always alone. He stayed with her until Sylphie got home. And that is chapter 10. I'm glad I got to the 10th chapter. I really do want to save 11, 12, and I think 2 EX chapters. And for one final Mushoku Mondays for 10. I'm kind of excited the fact that I was able to do 3 Mushoku Mondays for 1 volume, because I know people want me to get to 12. But like I said before, this isn't like the most crazy chapter here, or a crazy volume here. But no, I do want to leave one more point here in the idea that he points out that if he was in her position, he would want to be alone. But she's always been alone. It's kind of an interesting kind of perspective for him to give in the idea that I understand she doesn't want to be around people. She's a shut-in. She doesn't want to have anything to do with this world, so obviously she doesn't have a part to do with anything. And him being there might frustrate her. But I think he acknowledges that this might be what has led her up to this point. Again, we've been drawing parallels between Rudius and Nanahoshi for a long time now. He's acknowledged that he himself is being a hypocrite. I was in her position in my previous life. I didn't want people bothering me. I wanted to be a shut-in. People judged me, said, come out, enjoy the world. And I didn't want to. And Nanahoshi is the opposite. She is now in this world, not wanting to have anything to do with the outside world, and I'm almost trying to pull her out of there. But there's a part of me that almost wonders, If at some point Rudius will acknowledge, I could have helped her. She was at least opening her door to me and was able to communicate to me. She loved talking to Rudius. It seemed like she was okay with talking to Rudius. Maybe he could have done more to pull her out of that room so that she wouldn't be so destroyed when it failed. But at the same time, she was always trying to keep herself separate. You're going to enjoy this world. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Don't bother me. Did I make my point clear? I don't want to be here. I'm not going to get involved with this stuff. Oh, you're getting married? Oh, so you're dead set on staying here. Not me. I want to get out of here. These people don't seem real. But at least Rudius, she was okay with. I wonder if he's going to realize I could have been there more for her. I let her be alone. And I could have done more so that at least she wasn't alone. What if I was there more? Would she not have crashed as badly as she did that day? Curious. I don't think it will go that direction, but it could, because it so emphasized the idea she was always alone. And I wonder if he could have been there. So good. Like I said before, I love the parallels of Nanahoshi and Rudius. I think it's so absolutely fantastic. The moment they really acknowledge the idea that she's a shut-in in this world, and it gets in the explain the idea that she didn't want to have anything to do with the outside world, it was like, it's so parallels. It's so parallels. It is you, Rudius. It was you. I love it. So that's it. That's all we're going to get over through today. I cannot wait to get into the following chapters. I had a couple people saying, don't worry, there's a few really amazing chapters at the end of this volume, so just get ready for them. So I'm guessing that we're past slow life Rudius for now. But again, I enjoy the slice of life aspects. I enjoy the encounters, the characters, and their interactions. It's just, it doesn't lend much to Mushoku Mondays. That's the only reason I have a problem with it, and that's why I pretty much blitz through a lot of it. This is the juicy stuff that I get into. The minds of the characters, and what they're struggling with, and the breakdowns. Annalise was amazing. Nanahoshi was amazing. But yeah, can't wait for the next one. As usual, thank you guys for dropping by. I hope you guys enjoy this Mushoku Mondays. I probably have a cut somewhere in there. I'll leave it in there. But man, I've been baking this whole time. AC unit's dead, and it was a struggle getting through this Mushoku Monday. But hopefully it turns out well for you guys, and you guys enjoy it. But yeah, as per usual, thanks for everybody that dropped by for the premiere. Those that are in the chat, hey guys in the chat, thank you so much for being here. Make sure to hit the like button if you didn't already. Hit that like button. Don't leave until you do it. But as per usual, if you're new to this channel and you want to get more of my content, ID news, reviews, first impressions, top list, if it's anime, it's pretty much here. You hit that subscribe button so you can remain here and get notifications for whatever content I release. Additionally, I have a playlist that has all of my Mushoku Mondays, every single volume, every single chapter that I've gone through and hyper-analyzed and gave stupid predictions that people love to hear about. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to support it more and you're able to, I would greatly appreciate if you consider supporting on Patreon. Tips link, super thanks, all in the description below, as well as becoming a member of the channel itself. Everything you give helps out, keeps this going. I greatly appreciate it. It means so much to me. Thanks for all the kind words that people give, all the shout outs, all the people saying that they love Mushoku Mondays. All those comments mean so much to me, and it keeps this going. I love it. You guys are amazing. Love you guys. Until the next Mushoku Mondays, y'all take care. But should the knees arise, I am the third princess. A princess? I am the third prince of Sharon. Truly? I've heard that... What the hell? Bug. Bug, it's now? How'd you get in here?
Though Kishirika did make up for that particular custom.
It is so freaking hot in this room right now. It's so freaking hot in this room. My AC is broken. My AC is freaking broken. Is it considered good manners amongst humans to greet each other in the middle of meals? Is it considered good manners among humans to greet each other in the middle of meals? It's good when strong people get together. It doesn't make sense for the two of you to get married. It doesn't make sense for the two of you to get married. It's good when strong people get, that's right, strong children bring That's right. Strong children bring tranquility to... Strong children bring tranquility... Strong children bring... Bleh. Rudius was honestly very happy at the sentiment. Rudius was actually happy for the sentiment. Chapter 7, End of the Wedding Reception. Chapter 7, End of a Wedding Reception. Chapter 7, End and Beginner in Water Magic Style. None of this would be benefit for anyone. None of us would benefit from someone dying today. No one would benefit. That's incredible. In other words, I might not be able to get... In other words, I might not be able to get... In other words, I might not be the one getting beat senseless. Shelfie, so please, don't make me feel like we should be... So please, don't make me feel... So please, don't make me feel like we should... So please, don't make me feel like we should be better... So please, don't make me feel like it'd be better off... So please, don't make me feel as if she'd be better off following us. So please, don't make me feel like she would be better off with us. Or how she feels about... Or how she feels... Or how far she is from my perfect ideal? Or how far she is from my perfect... Or how far she is from my picture-perfect ideal? Or how far she is from my As if he was afraid that Rudius was going to come by, glance, and solve the puzzle. As if Rudius was going to walk by, glance, and solve the puzzle. As if Rudius was going to... Yes, Presenia would tease him with flirty giggles. Yes, Presenia would... Yes, Presenia... The university sought to make student... The university sought to make... The university sought to have children... The university sought to have students achieve beginner in all 6 during their 2 to 3rd years. Their 2nd to 3rd years. People watched as he tried to head towards... People were watching as he was dragging her across... Yes, Master feeds me lots of food. Yes, Master feeds to me lots of foods. Yes, Master feeds me to Yes, Master feeds to me lots of food. After Zenobia left, Rudius read the... After Zenobia left, Rudius went to the... After Zenobia left, Rudius lent... Maybe it was an Ossuran... Maybe it was an Ossuran... Maybe it was an Ossuran Kingdom... Maybe it was an Ossuran Kingdom... Maybe it was an Ossuran Kingdom tradition.